I had a bit of a moral dilemma coming into this episode. There was a lot of community outcry about terrible things in Diablo IV, and Blizzard has been on the decline for years. I didn't really want to support it financially, but this is a major game release, and I don't like speaking poorly of something I haven't played. I want this channel to focus on being constructive and positive. The whole reason for this show's format is that if I spot something I don't like in a game, I want to suggest a possible solution in the ugly, and no matter what game I'm reviewing, I will find something good to say about it. This Thanksgiving, I was thankful to Blizzard for resolving my dilemma by making Diablo IV free to play between the 23rd and 28th. Everything was recorded during that period, so now I can talk trash without buying Diablo IV. Today we're going over the best version of level scaling I've ever seen, why I normally hate level scaling, and my lament of Blizzard's glory days gone past. So join me as I try and find some light in the pits of hell that is Diablo IV. Is the community accurate when they start screaming?
Oh, this truly is hell!
If I'm lucky, this review won't get me permanently barred from working at Blizzard. I can admit I came into this game predisposed to hate it. I had seen a lot of negative things online, and I've never liked level scaling. Level scaling is when the enemies in the game have their levels adjusted to match the player. If you go up a level, so does everything in the game. On paper, this is a good idea, because the goal is to make sure that every fight in the game is engaging. When enemies are so hard that you can't win, or they take over an hour to kill, that's not fun. Likewise, enemies that pose no threat are boring. So level scaling tries to solve this and make every fight land in that sweet spot where it's fun. But there are two massive issues with traditional level scaling. The first issue is that it incentivizes players to not engage with the content. If the whole world is going to get stronger as I level up, why would I get stronger? Just run to the boss with a conga line of enemies behind you, which is how I spent most of my time with Diablo since I only had a long weekend to play. And it's also funny to ignore enemies. The second issue is that it punishes experimentation. If you've played Oblivion, that's the Elder Scrolls game before Skyrim, then you'll likely remember how annoying it was to die to a crab. And this happened because if you upgraded unarmed combat, archery, and one-handed weapons all to level 5, those crabs were level 15! You can only use one weapon at a time, so the more you diversify your build, you'll end up with more questionable upgrades.
My eyes, the goggles do nothing.
Diablo IV is probably the best use of level scaling I've seen in a long time. They solved the first issue by having level floors, which means certain areas will never go below a given rank. Now, admittedly, I think they tuned the level floors to be a little bit too low because I was fine despite my previously mentioned strategy, but that's easy to adjust, and I get why they did it. As for the second problem, Diablo IV lets you respec your character's build at any time. It's even free in the early game, so players can experiment. I swapped up my build fairly early on when I decided that being a frail sorcerer in melee range of a boss wasn't a good idea. But what makes me really like what Diablo IV has done with level scaling is the Schrodinger's cat approach to enemies. Diablo is a social game. When you join a party with a friend, your levels will rarely line up. When you hit or get hit by an enemy in Diablo, it looks at your level before deciding how much damage was dealt. The game does the calculation at the appropriate level before applying damage as a percentage to the target. Whether playing with friends or alone, the enemies will have the desired experience thanks to the level scaling, which I suspect is why they kept the level floors so low, because it expands the area players can play together while ensuring everyone gets to feel like they belong.
Dungeons! Chambers! Whoa! Evil creatures! Doorways! Traps! Yeah! I'm in my element!
Even though I said Diablo 4's implementation of level scaling is the best I've played in a while, it doesn't mean I like it. Part of the fun of an RPG, to me, is feeling my character's growth. Level scaling robs me of that experience. It forces everything into this flat line where I'm never running for my life or feeling like an all-powerful god. Just like a movie, you need pacing. There needs to be an ebb and flow to power to create a great experience. Perfectly scaled enemies are far more susceptible to spouts of boredom because the difficulty never varies the experience, meaning the attack patterns and strategies need to put in extra effort. Yet, during my time with Diablo, most enemies seem to behave the same way. Ranged enemies shot basic projectiles, either homing or dodgeable, while melee enemies ran at me in a straight line trying to hit me as I ran away from them.
And now the final ordeal, the paddling of the swollen ass with paddles.
The late game is probably better since most loot-based games tend to focus their attention there, but I've heard a lot of the community saying the game feels boring, and the early game certainly hasn't helped convince me otherwise. I'm sure it gets better because I've seen glimpses of what could be promising features, like the world events, but there's just not enough variety in the early game to force me to vary my tactics. Even the few random events I took part in while playing the game amounted to nothing more than defending a location from the same generic enemies I had already been fighting. Now, to me, it didn't matter because I didn't play long enough to get bored of the combat. I was still enjoying the discovery process of the new skills and builds. But I can see why some of the community feels the way they do. If you're trying to grind multiple champions, this'll impact you a lot more than a casual consumer. But if you're just playing for fun and not trying to grind Diablo IV every day, you'll be fine. It's still a perfectly fun game. Alright. I've put this off long enough. Time to rip Diablo IV a new one. I know the ugly section is about suggesting what I would have done if I were on the team, and I try to keep to the theme. So here's the suggestion. Stop doing level scaling and make the enemy diversity more meaningful. You have all this great art in the game, and there's no reason they should all behave in the same way. Good, that's out of the way. Now the elephant in the room. Diablo IV had great sales when it launched on PC and PS5, which happened on June 5th. By the time it was released on Steam, October 17th, it was immediately getting review bombed. How did Blizzard destroy the hype around this game and piss off the entire community within a couple months?
Fuck you!
Let's start with my biggest issue, and that's launching with dark patterns in the game and refusing to give refunds for them. For those unfamiliar with a dark pattern, it's a specific type of UX design which pushes users to actions they wouldn't otherwise take. It's basically this.
Your change is right there. Just pull the sandwich out of the little girl's mouth. This is not streamlined. It's just the new change dispenser, sir.
There is no excuse for this. It's abject evil. Most of us have encountered it more often than we know because they are subtly manipulative. I've linked a paper in the description if you're interested in reading about dark patterns, but come on, like, do these look like happy customers to you?
Oh shit. Fuck. God damn it.
Activate accelerated pass. What? What is this? Wait, I don't agree to it. I just said activate. What? What does it mean transaction? What does it mean transaction?
You are willfully destroying your brand with this garbage. Then we have the stats. Look at this nonsense. There's 14 types of damage reduction by my count. There's a stat for damage with poison, not to be confused with damage with poisoning. And no build is complete without some damage with swapped weapons. This is a strategy gambling systems use. They artificially make good stats rare by flooding the pool with trash. Make no mistake, these stats are not in the game to make it better. Then there's all the other valid complaints Diablo IV veterans have with this latest entry. There's seasonal characters, so you have to make new characters and start over. Limited inventory space makes you destroy stuff you wouldn't otherwise want to. There's forced repetition in the missions. It's always online, so server issues can keep you from playing. There's a limit to 5 active skills at once, and the battle pass doesn't grant you enough premium currency to buy anything of actual value. I'll give Blizzard some credit. To my knowledge, they've fixed some of these things, but they didn't do it because they wanted to. If there was no community outcry, nothing would have been fixed. It pains me to see this kind of behavior from Blizzard because I grew up playing their games. StarCraft got me into RTSs as a genre, and it's the entire reason I've watched Day 9 since university. I think Overwatch 1 has some of the best character designs in all of gaming. It allows players of so many skill levels meaningful impact when they play an FPS game. So having to tell all of you that you shouldn't buy this game or forget what Blizzard has done feels terrible. Their recent titles are filled with unsavory practices that have sadly become endemic to the gaming landscape. It's like what happened with loot chests. The first few iterations weren't so bad. I actually liked them. But when developers saw the money they could extract from players with loot chests, they all started going.
There be the chest. Inside be the gold.
We took them all.
These types of practices are what get governments involved, and that's horrible for everyone. The last thing anyone should want is people who don't understand our industry regulating it. But that's going to happen if businesses keep pushing the limit of ethics.
These are some of the most predatory dogshit business things I've ever seen in games, and it feels weird, but I agree with you, China. Please get rid of this shit.
If we don't start respecting our players' time and treating them like people instead of piggy banks, a lot of modern practices are going to become illegal, when they don't have to be used in predatory ways. I'm hoping companies realize this before it's too late and we have to deal with people calling us up with complaints like, "Stop breaking the law, asshole!" And I feel bad for the employees, because no one wants to build a bad game. The effort in Diablo IV shows. The art in the game is great. I rarely found bugs, so the engineering work is solid, and as much as I've been taking issue with the design, I know it's not always the design team's fault either. People who outrank the designers can force the game into directions that the team may not agree with. And in return, what we get is to work on some of the most well-recognized series in the world.
Yes. And lots of money.
It's hard to watch a company fall from grace. I remember replying to Blizzard immediately after I graduated from university, and then again after Overwatch came out. I wanted to work with Jeff from the Overwatch team. He had such a way with words.
For those of you who don't know what the PTR is, it stands for patch notes, totally random, or sometimes the player tiers region.
It used to be everything Blizzard touched as a company was gold. But great people is what makes great games, and Blizzard has been losing a lot of talent. Jeff is gone, David Kim from StarCraft left, Ben Brode from Hearthstone left and he made Marvel Snap. It feels like half the team at Frost Giant currently working on Stormgate is ex-Blizzard employees. As all those talented people go their own way, it's leaving Blizzard as a husk of its former self, mining nostalgia for a few precious dollars while the creative visionaries leave and warn us not to turn back.
Let Blizzard go. Appreciate what was created back when it was done, and stop holding out hope that it's gonna come back, because it's not.
I quit Blizzard because it sucked. They paid me 36% of industry standard for my job.
So, I can't in good conscience advise anyone to support Blizzard right now. A part of me still wants to work there, because I could work on the series that I loved growing up, and I still love to this day. But when I stop to be rational, I know it's not a good idea. I'm not even sure I want to see StarCraft 3 for fear of how they might ruin the series. It might be a bleak way to end the episode, but I hope Blizzard course corrects. There's always a road to redemption. Blizzard can be the legendary studio we once knew it as. And while we wait, I'll drown my sorrows and prepare for their next game.
Give me a bottle of something to help me forget my problems. Oh, maybe not that strong.